Okay, so I'm finally doing a video on this. We have some details on this apparent gargantuan Spencer Dinwiddie 3-team deal to get him to Washington. The Nets are getting a second round pick and a draft swap from the Wizards for Dinwiddie. That's what Shams tweeted, so I'm just going to assume that that's all the Nets are getting, which means they didn't really want to take on any more money in this deal. Their roster is already kind of filled out between still having Blake coming back and Bruce Brown and Claxton, and they got Patty Mills, so they I guess they didn't want the Kuzma Montrez thing, I assume, right? So now we'll have to see if anyone else on the Wizards is moving to make the money work in this very complicated deal. I'm not going to try to predict anything because I really have no clue. For the Wizards, they've got Spencer Dinwiddie, which is a pretty decent return for Westbrook, assuming that Westbrook was just gone no matter what, right? Now, as far as my Celtics are concerned, and they're making it as obvious as possible that they want Bradley Beal after this year, that's not good for them. For the Wizards' sake, I mean, in some ways you could say it's not too different than what we just saw this previous year. It's a guy in Dinwiddie who's not as good of a passer as Westbrook, not as good of a player as Westbrook, but still very good in his own right. You know, somebody who can create offense himself. He's going to get screens from Thomas Bryant, who can roll as well as pop because, you know, Thomas Bryant, it's tough to remember now because he was hurt, but he was really developing a jump shot and becoming one of the better shooting bigs in the league. So the spacing could be good there. I do fear, if Denny is on the Wizards, I do fear, again, that he's going to just be put in the corner and he's not going to be allowed to do much. Oh, apparently the Wizards are sending Chandler Hutchinson in a second to the Spurs, so the details are pouring in on this massive trade, apparently. So yeah, Dinwiddie, he can create offense. I think the only question is if Dinwiddie and Beal can play off of each other that much. I don't know. I mean, if they screen for each other, you imagine the defense would just switch that. Of course, Beal has off-ball potential, and his gravity, I mean, it's not like Steph or Dame, but it might as well be. It's not like teams are not staying glued to him when he's moving off ball, so that's always good. And as far as Dinwiddie off the ball with Beal, I mean, I guess it's similar to the Westbrook stuff. Like, teams are not going to stay attached to Dinwiddie when he's spotting up from three. So you would hope that he would then take advantage of that space and take it himself off the dribble or cut or whatever. I mean, Dinwiddie's best three-point shooting season, based on percentages, it was 38%, but he didn't take that many. When he actually started shooting them, he's at his best been about 34%. So it's not horrible, but he's also been a little shaky overall. So what does all that mean? I don't know. I mean, again, I think the Wizards, like, they certainly did a good job of Westbrook wanted out, and the replacement ends up being somebody who's younger and, yeah, a little worse, but not a whole lot worse. And if it's possible for them to keep, like, one of Kuzma, Montrez, or KCP or whatever, again, I'm not going to predict anything, but if they can keep something out of that, that's pretty cool too. Apparently now the Pacers and, of course, the Lakers are in on this because they're getting Westbrook, and it becomes a 5-team trade with the draft night trades being thrown in. I don't know. It's a whole big thing. So anyway, you think about the Wizards and, last week I did the thing about Beal still doesn't want out. Did he have word of this happening already, and that was that? I mean, if you're the Wizards, the number one goal is just making sure Beal wants to stay. And if you've already got a good player next to him who was a little younger than Westbrook, and you can hope that Denny and Rui, of course, and Thomas Bryant can keep on developing, then perhaps that's enough. Maybe that's enough for Bradley Beal to stay, and eventually you can either hit on a draft pick or you make a trade for someone with the extra stuff you've got outside of these two guards, and there's your chance to be really, really good. Dinwiddie's contract is $21 million for 3 years. I know the money that Westbrook was making was, of course, a lot bigger. So as far as how the specifics play out, we'll see, and we'll see where Kuzma, Montrez, and KCP end up at the end of this big trade. But yeah, there's Dinwiddie for the Wizards. I think the Wizards, they're certainly going to be competing for the playoffs. I guess the 5th or 4th seeds could be like optimistic goals for them if some things swing their way or if one of their young guys really takes off in this upcoming season.